Three, two, one.
Hi, this is Genesis, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? Man, oh man. I always tell you guys on this channel, the truth will eventually, just wait for it. It may take a long time, but eventually it will come to light. And that is what we're starting to see when it comes to the relationship of Oscar De La Hoya and Canelo Alvarez. So Canelo Alvarez, he surprisingly came out and really ripped Oscar De La Hoya. He ripped him with somewhat of a personal attack. Now, before I quote what he said today, I want to put everything in chronological order so you understand where this kind of stems from. Now, the first big feud that Canelo and Oscar De La Hoya had, at least in the public, was when Canelo Alvarez, he got stripped of his IBF belt because he didn't fight the #1 mandatory, Sergey Derevyanchenko. Because this obviously made Canelo look really bad, he blamed this on his promoter, Oscar. He said he absolutely knew nothing about the deadline of when he was supposed to face his mandatory, Sergey Derevyanchenko. This is what Canelo said. Then you had the situation where Oscar De La Hoya kept telling the media and the public that Canelo will be facing Golovkin a third time. And eventually, Canelo, he got fed up and he just told the public, he said, look, man, sometimes Oscar doesn't know what he's talking about. And then he said he's done with fighting Gennady Golovkin because he said that Golovkin doesn't present any challenges. Now, a comment like that will raise your eyebrow, but that was lightweight compared to what he just recently said today. This is when I knew it was a whole lot more going on between the two that they still haven't let us in on. This is what Canelo said about Oscar De La Hoya today. Quote, "You can see there's no loyalty in him. He changed his trainers during his career. He changed managers in his career. So there's no loyalty. That's the way he is. We see it now." End quote. There was something else that Oscar De La Hoya, he posted on Instagram. It was directed towards his lightweight fighter, Ryan Garcia, and his trainer, the same trainer who trains Canelo Alvarez, Eddie Reynoso. This is what Oscar De La Hoya posted. Quote, "Bro, when you duck under, always keep your eye on your opponent. You tell your trainer that." End quote. So clearly the way Team Canelo took that is Oscar De La Hoya is clearly criticizing Eddie Reynoso as a trainer. After Oscar said this, Canelo, he would continue by saying, "The only thing I have to say, very ungrateful." He has to remember that his first world champ in Golden Boy's stable was Oscar Larios. Oscar Larios is a longtime assistant trainer of Reynoso. Canelo, he continues by saying, "I'm a very loyal person and we are a very loyal team. We're still together, but you can see there's no loyalty in Oscar." End quote. Now then there was something that Canelo Alvarez team, they did directly to Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy, which I know it completely rubbed Oscar and Golden Boy the wrong way. Canelo Alvarez, he has his own promotion, Canelo Promotions, and he ended up signing one of his prospects, Julio Cesar Martinez, to Eddie Hearn instead of Golden Boy. So you can imagine how Oscar took that. Now guys, I truly believe that there's more to this that has angered Canelo so much. I mean, once again, for him to start talking about loyalty and saying personal things about Oscar, I truly believe this has a lot more to do with Oscar De La Hoya actually wanting Canelo to fight the Demetrius Andrades and the Jamal Charlos, while Canelo had no interest in those fights. I mean, just think about this for a second. If it caused a stir up, if it caused a little bit of a rift between Canelo and Oscar because Canelo gave up his IBF belt, think about it, he had to give up his WBC belt as well. So that might have caused another stir up. And therefore, that might have been the reason why either somebody from Canelo's team or somebody from Golden Boy felt the need to reach out to the WBC to try to save face, because they didn't want to deal with the embarrassment that they dealt with when it came to having to give up the IBF belt. They knew how bad that would look. You just gave up the IBF belt. Now you're going to give up the WBC belt? So once again, this is when the WBC president, he comes up with this witness protection belt, which is not a belt at all. And I'm going to tell you right now, any media member, you guys are doing the sport of boxing a disservice to constantly tell the public that Canelo was elevated to a belt that has no ranking system, has no top 10, has no mandatories. How can you be elevated to a belt that no one can fight for? That belt is no different than a belt that you get from Walmart. The only difference is it's bigger and it looks nicer, right? It would cause a lot more attention if you walk down the street with it around your waist, right? But that's it. That's the only difference. Who are you the champion of if no one can fight for the belt? You can't say you're the champion of the world. You can't say you're the champion in the middleweight division if nobody can compete with you for that belt. That's just a personal belt that you collect. It is a trophy. That's not being elevated. Being elevated is when you go from the number 4th contender to the number 1 contender. Being elevated is when you were the number 1 contender and you had to fight for a championship belt, and now you've been elevated to the real WBC, IBF, WBO champion of the world. And you have a ranking system. You have a top 10 that can fight for that belt. You have to defend the belt. That's what champions do. So enough with the games and talking to fans like they're stupid. Canelo Alvarez did not get elevated. Canelo Alvarez, he vacated his title, and he did not want it to look as bad as it had looked a couple of months ago when he vacated his IBF title. So the WBC conspired to help save face for Canelo Alvarez by giving him this witness protection belt, which means you can stay hidden for the rest of your career at 160 and you will never be forced to fight anyone you don't want to fight. So in other words, Canelo Alvarez is no longer a champion. The WBC champion is Jermall Charlo. I mean, that's real talk, guys. All of us can go to the store right now, pick up a belt, and call ourselves the champion. But champion of what? Champion of who? I truly believe that Oscar De La Hoya, he hasn't come out and said anything, but once again, man, just wait for it. Eventually, all this stuff is going to come out to light. I truly believe Oscar De La Hoya doesn't like what Canelo is doing with giving up his WBC belt, avoiding Jermall Charlo, avoiding Demetrius Andrade, because you got to remember, Oscar De La Hoya is a gold medalist, and he was pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world. He comes from an era where there were no damn Mickey Mouse ass franchise belts. He had to fight the best fighters in the welterweight division. Oscar was fighting Pernell Whitaker, Ike Corte, Felix Trinidad, right? These guys are equivalent to the Demetrius Andrades, the Jermall Charlos today. So I know this is bothering Oscar because Canelo is not doing what Oscar De La Hoya himself did. Oscar De La Hoya is practicing what he preaches. You got to remember, Oscar, he promotes Canelo Alvarez. And Canelo Alvarez, he's a live hand grenade. I can already tell he has that superstar personality where he'll tell his promoter, Oscar De La Hoya, look, Oscar, this is what I want to do. I don't give a damn what you want. I'm telling you what I want to do. I'm Canelo. I mean, you heard what he said. He called Oscar De La Hoya ungrateful. And Oscar De La Hoya is the one that promotes him. He's calling him ungrateful. That lets you know what Canelo Alvarez's personality is about. So this is the reason why Oscar is so tight-lipped. He's promoting this guy. If Oscar could just speak freely and really tell us what's on his mind, oh man, we would hear it all. We would really hear it all. And I can almost assure you guys, he would be saying, you know, real champions. Well, actually, Oscar's already said something on these lines. He's already kind of said it. You know, he says things that's a little indirect, You know, he'll say stuff that's kind of subliminal, if you will. He'll say stuff like, hey, you know, to be a champion, you got to fight everyone. You got to fight the best. He said that before. So I know what's going on. I truly believe that Oscar De La Hoya is upset that Canelo Alvarez is not fighting the best fighters in his own division. Just like the sport networks, the boxing sport networks, the Mexican analysts, ESPN, Deportes, etc., they constantly stay criticizing Canelo Alvarez because he's not fighting the Andrades, the Charlos. They continue to criticize him. So it's more than just Oscar De La Hoya. But I truly believe if Oscar De La Hoya wasn't in the position that he's in, he would be spitting a whole lot of fireballs at Canelo right now. But he got to stay tight-lipped. So that's what I truly believe this comes down to. You know, there's no doubt about it. This feud, it stems from some serious conversations they've had or just some serious things that they've been saying behind each other's backs, behind closed doors. But it's going to all come to light. It's going to all come to light. I got a feeling, I could be wrong about this, but I truly have a feeling that Oscar De La Hoya, he really is shaking his head every time he thinks about this franchise belt. Every time he thinks about the fact that Canelo gave up his belt to not fight Jamal Charlo, and now he's no longer the champion. Now he has a damn belt from Walmart that doesn't mean a damn thing. I truly believe that's the way Oscar sees it. I mean, just remember when he criticized Ryan Garcia. When he criticized Ryan Garcia, he had to damn near come back and retract that. Now he's saying that Ryan Garcia is going to be the richest boxer, etc. You see how he had to retract? That's why he's tight-lipped on the Canelo Alvarez situation. He said what he truly thought and believed about Ryan Garcia, and that backfired. He got a lot of backlash, and he had to retract. That's why we're not going to get too much of the transparency when it comes to Canelo Alvarez. With that being said, I'm going to wrap this video up. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.